will Formula E's attack charge validation be a game changer? Now, obviously, back in mid-November, I think November 18th, Formula E confirmed what that attack charge validation will look like. So obviously, up until now, we have had attack mode and fan boost. Fan boost is no more. Attack mode is still on. But once the fast charging aspect of the sporting regulation kicks in, attack mode will go from, drivers having to basically do a joker lap or going off the racing line to get activated attack mode to doing a pit stop in order to activate both their attack modes. Now there have been a few changes regarding that too. So up until now, the attack modes were arbitrary from race to race. So before every race, FIA would decide, or the stewards would basically decide how much time of attack mode will be allotted for the given race and whether it will be all together or in two separate bursts and how so on and so forth. But now what Formula E has done, whole minutes of attack mode, and you can either spend it in 2+2, 1+3, or 3+1, however you choose to do so. But the attack mode will be activated not at the start of the season, but when the fast charging is introduced, basically by pitting at a predetermined time in the race, which I'm guessing is gonna be in the first half of the race.
Yeah.
So you have to pit for 30 seconds, charge, and then you will have access to both your attack modes when you wish, right? So you don't have to go off track anymore. Now, there's obviously two aspects of it. One is the sporting aspect as to how this is going to affect racing on track, pit stop aspect, and how that's going to look, which we have discussed in the past, but we'll touch upon a little bit here too. And the third aspect of this is this really necessary given the stats, right? So here's what Formula E has told us about fast charging, right? So the cars will be in the box for 30 seconds, and in those 30 seconds, they will be given 4 kilowatt hours of energy will be transferred to the battery, right? So 4 kilowatt hours, so we can say, okay, 8 kilowatt, the battery is about 51 kilowatt hours, I believe. And so you're charging about 8% of the battery, right, in 30 seconds. Now, how does that translate? So usually if you're charging a battery from zero, the first 80% will be really fast, and then there'll be a drop off in the charge rate of the battery, as most of us know who've learned a little bit about, or looked into how electric batteries charge. Now, if you do the math there, so in 1 minute, you could ideally charge 8 kilowatt hours if the battery can take that. We don't know if the battery can take, but let's say theoretically it can take, 4 kilowatt hours every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So you could charge an 80 kilowatt hour battery, which is what most passenger car batteries are have the capacity of, in, let's say, 10 minutes would be like, more than 10 minutes. Even if we double the figure because of exponential slowing of the charging of the battery, let's say 20 minutes, which is a huge jump from 45 minutes, which is what manufacturers have now, to go from, let's say, 15-20% of battery to 85-90% of battery at the moment. Right? Right? So definitely the technology is great, but I think it needs to be showed or demonstrated in that fashion, because right now when Formula E said, okay, in 30 seconds the battery will be given we'll have a battery charger that can charge at 600 kilowatts and will provide the battery with 4 kilowatt hours of charge. Now the 600 number is impressive, but the 4 number is not. So you can, and which is why I went in and I did the math and I understood, okay, what does this 4 kilowatt hour really represent, right? So if we have 50 kilowatt hour battery and we are giving it 8% charge, so based on like previous races, you could regenerate enough energy during the race to go for 45 minutes, right? So if you're giving it 8% more charge, you can go 8% more in the race, which I think translates to about 4 more minutes, based on previous figures of not the future powers, right? So you could go up to 4 more minutes. And those figures don't seem like a lot, which is why I feel like Formula E needs to work a little bit more harder in order to explain or, demonstrate what I just demonstrated in a more positive way as to why this is important and how, on a bigger scale, this is making a difference, right? Because when I'm talking about 4 minutes, 4 kilowatt hours, and 600 volts, it's not making a lot of sense. But when I'm telling you, okay, but if I put the car there for 10 minutes, you could almost have 80% charge. The consumer's mind, in my opinion, will go, oh, the Tesla is telling me I need 45 minutes for 80% charge, But you are telling me you have technology that can
10
do it in
minutes,
10 minutes.
Exactly.
And that is exciting. That scale is exciting, right? You are to the average viewer, right? So I think that is what needs to come out of these, media outlets and Formula E especially. And I don't think they did a great job with explaining the attack charge and why it's going to be impactful and why they're pushing for the technology into the sport, even though optically, like we talked about earlier, it's not going to be very exciting because
Yeah.
there's not going to be a flurry of activity in the pit boxes, right? And my comment to that was going to be, if I don't see 10 mechanics doing jumping jacks for 30 seconds, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, you have a very valid point that Formula E needs to demonstrate that they need to explain it because, like, you were talking, and I don't know a lot about batteries or whatever, but like, although I know what Formula E is doing, that is the only reason I could grasp what you were saying, right? But as you said, tell someone that it's a fast charger with 4 kilowatt hour and it doesn't make any sense. But if you put it in a larger context, it will make sense. And but I feel when Formula E will showcase it, and they absolutely should, like they will put out a YouTube video about the whatever, right?
They just put out, so it's again, when I viewed that video, so it was basically the season 9 Gen 3 preview video. I think it's about 8 minutes long or something. They put it out, it had 63,000 views last night, and they had put it out 6 days ago. So not many people have seen it. Like, in the world of motorsport, 63,000 is nothing.
Yeah.
Is nothing. You have to cross at least 500,000 to like even get to most people, right? So clearly only people who are following it would have seen it. And the attack charge validation perspective of it, they spent, I think, about a minute on that, and that was it. And they just gave the stats of it, which I said earlier. 30-second stop, 4 kilowatt hour power using state of the art charger, this, that, and the other, and that was it. They didn't put it in the bigger context.
It's really just data out of context, which is not good data. That is what I have been learning. For the past 3 months. But anyway,
let's come back to the original question. Yeah. Will Formula E's attack charge validation be a game changer?
I feel with manufacturers being involved in Formula E, with Jaguar, with Abt, no longer Audi, with Porsche, I think these manufacturers could make use of it and make it into an industry standard or something like that. Maybe do it the way Tesla does it, in a more collaborative way, because Tesla has superchargers spread out across the area, right? So in a more collaborative way, they can implement this technology.
What about in terms of track action? I don't really care about the automotive world. Like I said, 10 minutes ago, I don't think going all electric is the answer
that's true.
to the future of mobility, right? So I don't really care about what they're going to do with this technology. Yes, this technology is exciting from an automotive perspective, and I just explained why. But what about the on-track action? It's going to diminish it. I think it's going to be less exciting than when it was the way it was, like the way attack mode is. So this new thing is being called attack charge validation, and that's how we're going to differentiate it. So attack charge validation ACV and attack mode AM. So we're gonna address it that way so that we don't have to say the same words over and over again, right? So I think the exciting part about AM was the fact that you had to lose positions in order to gain positions, but in ACV you have to stop once, and if you're doing it early on in the race, I'm not sure how much of an impact it's gonna have, because you could essentially make that time up later on, or there's not going to be really a concept of undercutting or overcutting, because it's not a variable pit stop almost. You have to do a 30-second pit stop, right? So the lack of variety or the lack of that variable in how long you're in the pits is almost taking away from the jeopardy of stopping or going off track and trying to actually. I think the only part of it is like you have given them 3 strategy options, and that might play into it as to like when they activate it. So for me, in my brain, it's almost like, okay, why are we even doing that if we could just have push to pass? So it's just a very convoluted way of doing things, in my opinion, right? But that's just my opinion. You can hold a different opinion, obviously. So what do you think? Because I think they're taking away the jeopardy from what attack mode created. That jeopardy is somewhat being diluted with this ACV side of it. yes, they're doing it to introduce a new technology, but I think they could do it in a way that is still more exciting than what we're going to see on track. I don't think it's going to diminish it by a lot, but I think the jeopardy will be less with ACV compared to AM. I could be wrong.
No, absolutely. I mean, the jeopardy that AM presented was much larger than anyone thought it was, because we saw multiple drivers like miss the activation point, and they lost a couple of places only to do the activation point again, right? That's definitely, there's no jeopardy in the pit stop. You have a pit limiter, you come into the pits, you slow down, stop 30 seconds, that's it. You move away after 30 seconds. There's no jeopardy, there's no, like, as you said, there's no variable. So I think it's typically Formula E. They have the technology, they'll use it. I'm pretty sure they'll change the sporting regulations in the future for it.
I'm hoping
Yeah.
so. Yeah, I'm hoping so. And I think the other aspect of it that also I'm waiting to get more clarification on is when they say that teams can deploy attack mode or ACV going forward when they have fast charging in 2+2, 1+3, or 3+1. Will that be something that is determined with the stewards before the race, or will that be on the fly and they can select how long they deploy it for on the go? So
I mean,
basically, let's say
yeah.
you and I are racing, you are ahead of me, and I deploy attack mode and you deploy attack mode, and I decide to switch off attack mode after 1 minute because there is no use of me using attack mode. So can I do that on the fly, or is that predetermined how I'm going to deploy attack mode? And the reason I bring that up, you might think it's stupid, but in Formula E, usually you have to declare everything before the race. And up until now, everything is a known variable to race control before the race starts.
No.
Right? So do the teams have to decide on the strategy before the race, or is this something or even like when they're switching it on is another, right? If I switch on the attack mode, do I have to enter basically how many minutes I'm switching it on for right then and there, or can I change how long I want to switch it on for later on, right? So if you see me switch off my attack mode and you want to carry on, you want to carry on, let's say you're ahead of me, right? So you could carry on for 3 minutes, but let's say at 1:55 you decide, okay, no, I've made enough of a gap or whatever, and you want to switch it off. So is that option available? So I think that is something that might create a little bit more action, a little bit more question, a little bit more, not jeopardy,
more
awareness will be required in order to
strategy,
approach
more
the
strategy,
racing.
yeah. But I mean, I think in the end of it really is a restricted push to pass system.
Yeah.
Because you only have, like, you can't use it anytime. You have to use, there is a limit, but you have, even in that limit there is blocks, right? So yeah, it's a strange one.
And the optics of it, we've already covered. If I don't see 10 people doing jumping jacks while the car is charging, it's a fail in my opinion.
There are videos on YouTube comparing multiple motorsport pit stops, right? And I don't think Formula E will make the cut from next season onwards.
Yeah, really don't want someone to just do the plug an application in and plug it out. The technology itself is exciting. Obviously, it's got its issue and everything. As we saw during testing, so many cars failed. They've had issues with batteries, and we covered that last week. But to integrate into the sport is a totally different thing.
Yeah.
I think it's a totally